Hello, it's Connie here from Prosperity Finance, sharing the best financial tips so that you can be more successful with achieving your financial goals. Now, recently we observed some property investors have backed off. Instead, more people now interested in buying first home, more people interested in upgrading home, and some people also planning to develop property on the existing sites. Now, in today's video, I'm going to share with you my thoughts around property investing so that it may help you to clear your mind and see what is the next step for you. So firstly, I want to point out it's not affordable not to invest. Now, why is that? Now, when people retire at the moment, they rely on superannuation. When I look up the website today, I noticed that if you're living alone, you would get $504 per week. If you are a couple, you will get $770 a week. As you know, it's very expensive to live in New Zealand these days. So the amount of super you can get can cover your living costs, but if you want to live in a decent lifestyle, it's probably not sufficient, right? Now, so you need to build passive income. And in my case, I probably retire in 30 years. I don't even know if superannuation still exists by then. So how much passive income you need? Well, I think it really depends the lifestyle you want to live later on and also your family structure. For example, if you have dependents or not, you are on your own or you're living as a couple. But let's say you want to have 100K before tax passive income per year per person. Now, on top of your mortgage-free home, you would need a net investment assets value of 1.67 mil. How it's calculated? It's simply 100K divided by 6% is 1.67 mil. So that means after paying off all your loans, including your home, your investment properties. So it's very significant if you really want to live in a lifestyle that you deserve. So you really need to start planning now and take action. Now, investment can be in many forms. You can buy shares, you can buy property, business, you can buy management funds, you can buy bonds, or just simply put your cash in the bank and get deposit rates. Now, I do appreciate the diversification of investing, but I really think property should be one of the main asset class you invest. Now, recently, New Zealand government have introduced the interest deductibility rule, and to a lot of people, it's really daunting because in the future, you can no longer offset the interest costs against your rent. So a lot of people now not to invest in property. But I think it is really important to realize if you don't invest in property, then you can't really have a good lifestyle. Well, why invest in property is worthwhile in New Zealand? And in fact, a lot of Kiwis love investing in property. I'm one of them. Now, the first property I bought was in 2009, so I've been buying property over 10 years. But, I haven't sold any single one. It's really for long term. It's for my retirement. Now, I want to share with you 7 reasons you should invest in property. Now, the first reason is property in New Zealand and some other countries also it's probably the most stable asset class. That means it doesn't really volatile much. Now, that's because people always need a place to live, right? So especially if you buy right in the right location, right? And it's guaranteed that the demand is always there because people need a roof over their head. So it is important that you buy in a good location, in a big city or satellite city where population growth exists. And there's job opportunity there. There's a lot of different industries there. So if you get that right, it's very hard to lose your money. Now, the second reason is with New Zealand property, the capital growth is predictable. Now, based on the evidence, in New Zealand, the property value increase 100 times between 10 to 12 years. So if you buy a property for $1 million today, you would expect in 12 years it's worth $2 million. So that's massive property value increase. That means wealth, right? Now, the third reason is it's very easy to start. You don't really need to have a lot of knowledge. Now, when I bought my first property, apart from the location, I have zero knowledge. But when I look back, all my property has gained significant value over the last 12 years. Obviously, if you want to, build your equity fast, grow your capital value fast, you do need deep knowledge and experience. But just to get started, you really don't need much knowledge at all. I also delegate my property to property manager, so they manage for me. I don't need to keep up with all the changes, and I don't need to deal with tenants. So it's a really, largely set and forget for me. I don't need to work on it, right? So it's passive income for me. Now, the next point is really the power of leverage. It's to do with the finance. What that means is, if you, in today's world, if you have $4, bank will give you $6 to invest. You can buy $10 assets, but you keep all the gains when the property grow in value. With the other investments like stock, you can't really borrow to buy stocks. You need to use your own money. Let's take an example. Now, currently, as I mentioned, in New Zealand, the loan-to-value ratio, which is the LVR, is set for 60%. So if you invest in $200K in cash, the bank will lend you $300K. You can buy $500,000 property. Let's say in a year time, the property grow in 10%, right? So how much profit you gain? $50K. That's 10% of $500K. But you keep that $50K. The bank don't take any dividends from that. In contrast, let's say you also have $200K. You use all the money to buy stocks. Now, also grow in 10%. The profit you make is $20K. $50K versus $20K. 25% return versus 10% return. You get that. Okay, so the next point is about in your control. You can add value to the property, such as renovation, such as add minor dwelling, like granny flat. Or you can subdivide it if you have the potential and capacity to do. So there's a lot of things you can do. What can you do about the stocks? You can't really influence the value, right? Next point. You can insure your property, but you can't insure stocks. Now, in New Zealand, in fact, property insurance is mandatory. That's the only insurance you have to buy if you want to get a mortgage. You don't have to buy personal insurance, medical insurance, etc. But if your property, have been damaged and need to rebuild, you will be paid for the rebuild, but you can't get the insurance for other investments. And finally, it's to do with the COVID. How lucky we are in New Zealand. We don't have community transmission. But look at some other countries. They are devastating. So since COVID started, a lot of people are thinking moving into New Zealand for living. They feel very safe compared to other countries. So it's kind of predictable that New Zealand population growth is going to be much higher than previously predicted. So these are the 7 reasons I really think you should invest. The recent tax changes is only affecting the cash flow. It is important that you be careful and review your cash flow position and make sure you don't broke. Because investing in property is a long-term game. It's like a marathon. But as long as you can afford to keep your property, I think you need to focus on the long run, the long-term benefits, which is the capital growth, which is the wealth, which help you to pay off your debt and help you to have the passive income for your retirements. You may want to say, but it's not a good time to invest. Well, yes, compared to 10 years ago, you should have invested 10 years ago. But hey, the second best time to invest is now. It is now. Even there's a bit fluctuation in value from time to time, but as long as you keep them, you don't sell them, you don't lose any money, right? It's a long-term gain. So you really should invest now. Now, as I mentioned about 2 weeks ago in my video, I see banks are reviewing their bank policies and reviewing their calculation rules. So potentially, your borrowing capacity will reduce dramatically in the near future. So if you are thinking about buying property, please act now. All right, so I hope you find it useful and help you clear your mind. Now, if you like our video, please feel free to subscribe it so you can get our content on time each week. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.